So what we have understood are the assumptions of working stress design method. The four assumptions which are laid down. One is the plane sections before bending remain plane after bending also. All tensile stresses would be taken only by the steel. The concrete will not take any tension. The stress strain diagram would be straight within the working limit. Whatever service stresses are produced, those would be essentially within the straight line. And the modular ratio giving a connection between the two stresses have been defined as 280 upon 3 times sigma CBC. Now, as per the assumption 2, the area of concrete in tension is neglected. Now look at the beam. When I see the beam cross section, B is the width, D is the depth from the top to the centroid of the steel, the tension steel provided. Now this is the actual gross section. When we consider the assumption 2, the section changes to what we see the next one, the transformed section. The portion B remains B itself. The area of the cross section above the neutral axis, which is in compression, is considered to be taking the stresses. The area of concrete below the neutral axis disappears. It is useless. It does not take any load. When I say useless, it is only towards taking any tension, does not take any tension. And also observe another thing. The steel in the tension zone has been converted into the area of concrete. It has been transformed into that much amount of area of concrete. Now how much is it? Now that we have seen in flitched beams, that comes equal to the modular ratio multiplied by the area of steel. So where the steel is provided, in the same location we change that steel to the amount of concrete over there. The area would be m times AST. So visualizing this becomes easier as the top portion above the neutral axis is in compression and it is useful in taking the load. So if you see on the right hand side the strain diagram which has been shown in yellow, the bottom portion below the neutral axis, everything is in tension. The yellow portion above the neutral axis is in compression. Now the stresses have been shown over here. At the bottom, the arrow in blue shows the stress in steel. At the level of the steel, the stress in steel is given as sigma st, which is equal to m times sigma cs. Now what is sigma cs? Sigma cs is the stress in concrete at this level where the steel is. So knowing the stress in concrete at this level where the steel is provided, I can easily know the stress in steel. In the top region, the total force resisted is equal to sigma c. The total force resisted is sigma c over there. Now, the effective area or the equivalent area of the section in terms of concrete only is equal to the area of concrete in the compression zone and an additional concrete area m into AST of concrete corresponding to steel area AST, as I have just explained. Now this transformation of concrete, the transformation of concrete from steel in the tension zone is valid in reinforced concrete for flexural members and also members subjected to direct tension. There are some special cases when members can be subject to direct tension also. So this transformation is valid for that case case also. The stress in steel in tension sigma St is obtained from the corresponding stress sigma Cs in the equivalent transformed concrete at the level of the steel reinforcement as sigma St is equal to m into sigma Cs. The moment resisted, the moment of resistance of this particular section would be either that sigma C on top or sigma St down, the total force created due to this sigma C, the total force created due to the stress resisted by the concrete in this region multiplied by the distance between the two arrows, or sigma St multiplied by whatever steel is there, that is the total force in tension, multiplied by the lever arm, that is the distance between the two arrows, one green and one blue. That becomes the moment of resistance. Sometimes the reinforcing steel is provided in compression zone also of concrete beams or columns. Now the modular ratio for the transformation is generally greater than that used only for tension. Now when we are using for tension, we have seen that the amount of transformation from steel to concrete becomes m into AST. But in compression, it is more than this. Let us look at the sketch again. The sketch on the right hand side shows the cross section, the gross cross section. Now over here, we find that there is steel AST at the bottom, that is steel in tension, whereas in the top zone, in the top portion, there are two bars ASC shown. ASC is area of steel in compression. In the second sketch, we find over here the bottom portion below the neutral axis, concrete is missing. The explanation is similar or same as the previous one. The concrete below the neutral axis is in tension and hence does not take part in load resisting the load. So the steel in tension AST is transformed as M into AST, same as the previous one. But then when we see the steel in the compression zone ASC, over here the transformation is not M into AST, or rather M into ASC, but it is 1.5 times M into ASC. So over here there is 50% increase in the transformed area. So in compression it is not directly M times ASC, but it is 1.5 M times ASC. The larger compressive strains in the steel in compression are noted than those indicated by the linear elastic theory using normally specified value of M. Now all this is due to the long-term effects of creep and shrinkage of concrete as well as non-linearity at higher stresses. Normally we have a doubly reinforced section, that is steel in tension as well as compression, when the stresses coming on the section are higher. At this level where the stresses are really higher, the graph, the stress-strain relationship does not remain linear. So taking this into account, the value has been changed to 1.5. So the IS code recommends that the transformed area of compression steel ASC be taken as 1.5 MASC rather than just MASC. Therefore, if you see the stress and strain diagram on the right hand side, the stress in the compression steel sigma SC is equal to 1.5 M sigma SC. Now what are the demerits, what are the disadvantages of using working stress method? As I said, the working stress method was the initially developed, the first developed method. Why was it discontinued? What was the problem, or what were the problems with the working stress method of structural design? The demerits of the working stress method of design are like this. The design by the WSM or the working stress method results in relatively large sections of structural members. Why do we get large sections? If you observe, the stress taken when we are designing the sections is much lower than even the yield stress. In concrete, we take factor of safety 3, so yield stress divided by 3. In steel, it is yield stress divided by 1.8. So that much time, that is 3 times or 1.8 times, the sections go on becoming larger. So the design results in relatively large sections of structural members. It also ignores uncertainties in different types of loads. What happens over here in this design is, whatever may be the type of load, it considers that all the loads would be acting together. For example, there may be dead load, live load, wind load, snow load, earthquake load. But as we have understood earlier, all these may not be occurring at the same time. There may not be wind load or snow load and earthquake load at the same time. But working stress method of structural design does not consider that they will be acting separately. Everyone is considered acting together with the same importance. It does not discriminate between different kinds of loads. Dead load, as we have said earlier, dead load has usually higher loading than any other type of load. Now this working stress method does not look at any of these loads differently. All the loads are considered same. The dust load, the snow load, seismic load, live load are looked upon same. It also gives disregards to the loads that act simultaneously and possess different uncertainties. The wind load may be there acting on one phase, it may not be acting at the same time on the opposite phase. The working stress method does not take into account that part. It looks upon all the loads acting together and acting with the same values. It also gives the same factor of safety to all the loads. Another big inaccurate assumption is that it inaccurately assumes that the concrete behaves in a linear fashion with increasing stress levels in tension as well as compression, which is not true. So, if a structure is designed by the working stress method and due to some event, say there is earthquake or say there is fire or whatever event like this, say the loads go on increasing, then also the working stress method assumes that the stress strain relationship in tension as well as compression is a straight line. At higher levels, this is not true, but this disregard is created in or given in working stress method of design. Just knowing a stress level does not give sure shot prediction of a failure or undesirable level of stress. When we are designing with working stress method, we know that the maximum permissible stress in concrete for M15 concrete is 5 Newton per mm square. But that does not ensure that yes, failure would be only occurring at this level or failure would be occurring at that level. No, just knowing the stress level of 5 Newton per mm square or it being increased due to the increased loads cannot give me the level of prediction of a failure. I cannot be sure that failure would occur or would not occur at a particular stress level. Another main disadvantage is that the full range of strains in the material is not used at all. The full range, the straight line, is not used. The straight line right from the beginning to the yield point is not used, as from the yield point the factor of safety is taken and we are using a lower level. So full range of strain is not used. Also, it completely disregards the non-linear part of the material curve. The part which goes beyond the yield point, it also can take the load. Even that is not considered. That is disregarded. In the working stress method, failure of a section is considered as a function of stress. In reality, it is a function of strain. When a section fails, it fails because of strain, not because of stress. But the working stress method does not look at strain at all. All the calculations are based on stress. The stress is used as a measure of safety in the working stress method, since the factor of safety is applied to the stress to obtain the allowable stresses. But ironically, this does not give the actual true margin of safety against failure. We are using it, we are using the stress, we are using the stress as 5 Newton per mm square in case of M15 concrete. But how much is the margin of safety? No one can say for sure. So that is another disadvantage of the working stress method.